What is the point of this MacBook? Like, this has been the question ever since I've seen the Apple event presenting the new M2 MacBook Pro. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that this product to a certain degree makes sense. And in this video, I'll give you 2 reasons why this product even exists in Apple lineup. And more importantly, maybe these 2 reasons will be enough to convince you to buy this MacBook Pro. And just in the beginning, just a basic statement, I am not convincing you to buy this MacBook Pro. I am saying that maybe these 2 arguments and reasons will be actually enough for you to consider buying this MacBook Pro instead of, the M2 MacBook Air. Again, this is not my recommendation. This is not something I'm, leaning toward. Just saying that maybe for you this would be actually the case. So, to the point. And when it comes to, the M2 MacBook Pro, it seems like a wasted upgrade, to be honest, because we got the M2 MacBook Air that has a redesign, that has the new M2 chip, that with the redesign come extra features. But on the other hand, the M2 MacBook Pro, the only upgrade there really is that M2 chip. And that made me actually think, what's the reason of redesigning the Air and leaving the MacBook Pro being the same? And I think it all comes down to 2 reasons. The first is the choice, and the second is Apple's business plan. And well, the second one is obvious, they have the spare parts. All it takes is to basically put the M2 chip into the, well-known chassis. It will be very easy to produce, to manufacture, and the, prices will be very nice for Apple. They will really benefit you from you buying this M2 MacBook Pro instead of, the new redesigned MacBook Air. And that is the obvious point, we don't have to discuss it any further. It's just very beneficial for Apple. But the other reason, the choice reason, I think that's the one really worth discussing. Because the M2 MacBook Air got a redesign. It's a very great laptop, a great machine, but it also got a price increase that's pretty much the same as of that of the M2 MacBook Pro. So even though, the M2 MacBook Air is still the Air, it's almost the price of the MacBook Pro. And it's crazy to think how similar they are in terms of functionality and in terms of what it can actually offer. If you choose the M2 MacBook Air, you are choosing the redesign, you are choosing this new beautiful midnight color, you are choosing the newer features that come with this redesign. But on the other hand, by going the Pro way, the MacBook Pro way, you are still getting some benefits that Air might not give you. And these are small benefits, but they still exist. And the first one is slightly longer battery life. And I think that when it comes to the battery life, these 2 MacBooks have, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but still, you get extra battery life with MacBook Pro. On top of that, you get that touch bar, and I don't know how really useful it is for people, but maybe there are actually here some fans of touch bar, and they actually want to see it on their MacBook. So you have that option on the M2 MacBook Pro, whereas you don't have it on the Air. And the main reason that people, like quoting is the fact that the M2 MacBook Pro is just gonna have better sustained performance overall. And maybe there is a possibility, I'm not saying that's the way, but maybe that M2 chip is to a certain degree slightly more powerful and better on this M2 MacBook Pro. Apple hasn't really shown us that, but they gave us the indication that it's slightly more powerful than the one on the Air. Maybe it comes down to cooling. That's the reason, again, that sustained performance, that cooling. But even if, the M2 MacBook Pro, it's still gonna be slightly more powerful. This M2 chip overall takes more power. A little bit, they bragged about the efficiency, but if you actually look at the peak performance, it still takes more power than the M1 chip, if you actually look at the Apple graph. So, considering that, maybe this active cooling will actually be more useful compared to the non-cooling on the MacBook Air. So that may be the reason why you would go the M2 MacBook Pro way. Again, I'm saying that because it still rocks an old design, because it's still the base lineup. It's not the 14-inch or 16-inch MacBook Pro. You're not getting M2 Pro or M2 Ultra, like the performance shouldn't still be that much of a concern. Therefore, I think I'll still lean toward the M2 MacBook Air because of that redesign, because of these extra features like 4 stereo speakers, etc., and better front-facing camera it got. I'll still lean toward the M2 MacBook Air, since, you know, I probably even would get the base version and save the $100 and whatnot and still have that nicely redesigned laptop. But if you maybe wanna somehow, for some purpose, squeeze that extra performance, you like that touch bar, you think that extra, just a little bit extra of battery life will make some sense to you, yeah, you still have that option. You don't have to pick that, but that M2 MacBook Pro is still the option. I don't think it's a great option. I don't think it's the one, you know, I would definitely choose, because like, if you want the base great laptop that's gonna give you probably all you want, you have that M2 MacBook Air. If you are on a budget, you have that M1 MacBook Air that is, you know, now discounted when it comes to Amazon and stuff like that. And on the other hand, if you want to have more of the performance, of the features, like really a big upgrade, you have that 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros. So like that M2 MacBook Pro now is in an even weirder spot than it was before, but it gives you at least some of the options, some of the choices. And I think that the performance difference might be more significant than it was with M1 MacBook Air and Pro, because of that M2 needing a little bit more power to reach that peak performance, and because, you know, Apple said it on their, you know, website that it is slightly more powerful when it comes to doing this and that task. So I think that may be the reason. But still, it's kinda a weird thing that the M2 MacBook Air gets a redesign and theoretically a higher Pro lineup MacBook is still stuck with a couple of years old design. Like, it's kinda crazy, and I will be digging deeper into that topic, making the comparison between M2 Air and M2 Pro, like MacBooks. So you may want to subscribe for that one. We will be really digging deeper into that and, you know, finally giving you the verdict which MacBook really is for you, for your specific use case. So that might be the reason you will want to subscribe for this channel. And yeah, I'm really waiting for that video because, you know, a couple of days has passed and I'm still thinking, I'm still considering, like, what on earth is the point of that M2 MacBook Pro? And this video, you know, was just kind of me thinking out loud because it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?